Today we're going to show you how to do an end pull actually onto a midline brace. If you look closely at this brace, it's in the middle of a long run of fence. We're going to finish one section this way onto this middle post, and then we'll go on down with a new wire to the end down the road. So in order to put the tension on the wire, we use what's called a stretcher bar. And this is our stretcher bar. We're going to put the wire in the stretcher bar, show you how it all hooks up. So we take our wire that we're going to tension, and we lay it up here along our bar. And a couple things that we always try to do with this is we want to line our stay wire up right here with our bar, and then we'll pull it down. All right, so then there's a series of wedges, and the wedges go in there, and the real key to using the wedges is to be sure that every wire on this here is underneath the wedge when we put it on the stretcher bar. So we'll come over here, we got our wire laying in here, we'll put our first wedge in, and there is a top and a bottom to the stretcher bar. If you look at it, the top hole's a little bit bigger. We run our wedges down through there. Okay, so that's how we get it started. It's lined up straight here. Then we'll just go ahead and tap those wedges down in. Don't be afraid to hit them. Okay, so once we get our wedges in and have our wire ready to go here, we'll take our stretcher bar pullers. And the stretcher bar puller has a hook on it that hooks into our stretcher bar itself, and then it has a set of opposing jaws, and those jaws will walk back and forth like this along our chain. So we go ahead and we fasten that hook into the loop right here on our stretcher bar puller. One of the things that we want to do when we unwind that chain is make sure that all of our links line up. We kind of fold it over like that, and it drops down over that chain, and then we can just crank it, and it basically takes 2 loops at a time as we go. A couple of safety things with the stretcher bar pullers. We always want to make sure that we pull our handle like this. We always want to pull that handle, come over here, pull it back. We don't want to get our face over the top of it and go down, because if it happens to miss that chain, it's going to hurt when it comes back. So we always want to use precautions when we use that. And then we'll just work together to pull that down. And you notice as we go along, our wire tension's up, and we'll pull a little bit more to get the final tension on it. We can work right here to keep it nice and square, so that as we go down and tie it off, it's square. So let's go ahead and take one more on that and see what we get. So now we've basically got it tensioned, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to tie this off. So we'll come down here. Okay, so we're just going to trim that little bit extra wire off. One of the things I like to do if I'm working by myself is I'll leave one of these wires up here still uncut, sometimes one in the middle. That way I'm not fighting the wire as I go down. We can grab that wire, cut it, and we don't lose it. So now we're going to quick strip off 2 rows of knots, and then we'll show you how to tie this off with a T-gripper. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and use our T-clip. Our T-clip is a special clip that we use. It's got opposing hooks on the end and a single hole, very similar to the medium gripples that we use for a splice. except it's one way. It basically is going to hook on our wire like that. We bring our wire around and it goes through that hole in the back, comes out the front side, and basically our wire's fastened. One of the things we always want to make sure we do with a T-gripple is have it inside of our knot here, close to the post. If we have it too far out here, it'll twist sideways and only one of the two hooks will catch the wire. So we always want to stay in tight against the post. And we'll pull as much slack through there as we can before we release the stretcher bar puller. We'll just kind of pull on these a little bit, take the extra slack out of it. Now once we get this loose, we'll go ahead and cut off these tails, but we're going to take the stretcher bar off first and show you how to do that. So in order to loosen our stretcher bar chain on our puller, we'll push down on it just a little bit, releases the jaw. Keith will lift the jaw up, and then as you go back, it can catch on the next chain and it will just work itself backwards. Typically only one or two really releases are needed for it, and it'll come off. Then we could just take our chain off. Do the same thing repeated on the bottom. And you notice that slack, a little bit of slack that we saw in that wire has now been absorbed by the rest of the fence. So we take our bottom chain out of there. All right, now take the top wedge out last, because if you take the top wedge out in the beginning, sometimes the wire will curl over and then it's very difficult to get the wedges out. So you kind of want to start at the bottom, taking them out. Okay, so we've got all of our wedges out now. We need to get our wire out, so we just kind of pull out on the wire. We lay that stretcher bar down inside there, and we're done. So that's our end pull to a midline brace. If you were pulling to an end brace, you would do exactly the same thing. If you were doing a straight run with an end pull, you would do the same thing. If this was an end brace on down at the fence line, we could do the same way. Now again, on this fence, we're actually going to continue on right here. So when we continue on, we'll tie our new roll of wire on here, roll it out and go on down that way and pull it to the end.